Hi guys, welcome back to Living the Gandy Life. Today I want to share with you a new resource that we have been using in our house and for our homeschool. So a lot of you have probably seen this on some social media ads on Facebook or Instagram. Honestly, that's exactly how I came across this particular resource. So without further ado, I'll just tell you what it is. So it is the Tuttle Twins series, all right? And it is an 11-book series that is written by Connor Boyack, illustrated by Elijah Stanfield, and it is just a book series that follows the Tuttle twins, so Emily and Ethan. Honestly, I believe that they are named Emily and Ethan after the author's his own children. So, but what it does is it follows the brother and sister, the twins, through several different scenarios. Through every different book, something new happens, and it's teaching liberty and free enterprise and economics and just a lot of civic truths and things that would be maybe a little bit more difficult to explain to kids, but the way that Connor puts them, words them, it makes these truths a lot easier to see through the stories and the illustrations and just the storyline in general to bring them to life for a young kiddo when you're trying to explain these higher thought economic ideas. Now, I'm not going to go through the synopsis of each individual book. If you want to, they're very well named. Just dropped them. They're very well named, and you could find the synopsis of each individual book if you wanted. But I will just kind of outline a few things that I wanted to note that might either deter you or maybe help solidify whether or not you want to use this resource in your own home. So they are very colorful picture books. So if you were thinking that they're more along the lines of a chapter book, it's not. When we have read them, we have sat down and read them in one sitting. So maybe a little bit longer of a picture book. As you can see, it's not a few words per page, but it does have very good colorful illustrations. But it is just one. I think they're usually between 50 and 60 pages per each book. And as I mentioned, there were a total of 11 at this point in the entire series. And, as I mentioned, they are written in a way that really spurs discussion with your kids. They're talking about things that are relatable, things that the kids can understand. So then they really start asking questions like, that doesn't make sense, or that's not fair, or why would they do this? And you're kind of thinking, yeah, I've had those same questions before too. But the kids are getting it because it's written in a way that is relatable to them. Another thing to point out is that some of the books are written either kind of to illustrate another book or an essay or something that was written by someone else. For example, the Tuttle twins learn about the law is kind of written after Frederick Bastiat's, if I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but his book of the law. So you can actually buy a copy of that and read that for yourself, but that's kind of aligning with this book of the law. And what was another one? Education Vacation kind of goes along with John Taylor Gatto's book of The Underground History of American Education. So if you're not familiar with John Gatto, you should definitely look up some of his books. I've read several of those, or a couple of those, and those are very good as well. But this one goes along with his as well, with his book. And so he's kind of adapting some books that might be for more of an adult and adapting them into a picture book to make those concepts relatable and understandable for the kids. So this one, as I said, was after John Gatto's book. The other thing that I really liked about the book is at the end it has glossary of terms. So just some terms that you would read throughout the book. It helps define those for the kids at the end, as well as giving some discussion questions. Then lastly, when I bought this entire set, it came with a PDF workbook for each of the different books. Now, I will preface with this. My kids don't particularly like busy work, like coloring and word searches and crosswords. Mad Libs. I'm trying to think of what else they had, mazes, things like that. Those come with it. There was also an area to maybe write something, maybe what you learned, or some reflection question, and have you write about it in this PDF booklet. We have not personally done any of these worksheets. My kids just don't particularly enjoy them. However, your kids might, and you might find that it is a good reinforcement of what you read, spur more discussion. So just wanted to let you know that those resources would be available. However, I can't attest to what they did for my kids because my kids just generally don't want to do any extra paperwork or bookwork. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that these books very much live on the principle that government should have little to no control of the free market. So if you don't necessarily have beliefs that align with that, you might find that these books are maybe going to rub you the wrong way. So just want to put that out there for anyone. We're all entitled to our own beliefs and how we want to teach our kids. So if that's not something that you would want to teach your kids, then I just want to make that point up front for you. Now, the other thing, when I was first doing my research and deciding whether or not we wanted to purchase this book series, I knew that the author's religion was not particularly our religion. And so I was doing a little research to see what was going to come up in these books and if that should deter me from buying them. I came to the conclusion that there were one book that specifically mentioned God and maybe it implicitly mentioned and another one. However, no particular religion was ever mentioned explicitly in any of the books. So, for example, in the very first book, it mentions in here that our rights come from God. And so God is mentioned in this book. However, it didn't mention any particular religion. So I was comfortable teaching my kids that our rights come from God because that is what I believe. So that did not rub me the wrong way. The other one that I wanted to mention was the Golden Rule book. And obviously the Golden Rule kind of mentions that there are religions that abide by the Golden Rule, right? And again, here, this doesn't rub me the wrong way. I do teach my kids about the Golden Rule. So again, we weren't deterred by the fact that the author had a different religion because nothing of what he had said would have showed up in the books for me to have to explain to my kids or have to worry about them taking the books on their own and to read them and maybe be confusing to them or make them question what they're being taught from me or our church or anything like that. So it's always good to do your own research and to determine if that was going to be a problem for you. But I did want to just kind of lay that out. I think I had read in my research that, a lot of schools had even used this series, but when they had purchased it, they maybe were not purchasing the very first book because that was the only one that explicitly mentioned God. So that was why we felt comfortable to go ahead and utilize it. I thought it was just a great way to just be introducing these economic principles to our kids, and a lot of times those are hard concepts to teach. So ultimately, when we've read them, we've not had any issues with what we've read, even though we have different religious beliefs. So I wanted to share with you guys just a couple of our family favorites. My kids really enjoyed the Miraculous Pencil book. The Miraculous Pencil goes into is they go on to this field trip with their school to see how pencils are made. And they're really taught about all the different things that truly go into making a pencil. And so my kids were just really fascinated that when you start to look at like the trees that they would make, of all the things that truly go in to making a pencil, it was really kind of astonishing and eye-opening that, all the different things, we think of it as just this pencil. Sure, it would be simple and easy to make, but all the different things and industries that go in to making a pencil. And so my kids were really fascinated. So like it ended up generating like, you know, the idea that like it was endless. Like it just kept leading to more and more things, more industries, more people, more plants, all these different things that were involved in making a pencil. And so my kids were really floored with that. Led to a lot of great discussion about different things of like, you know, if we started to look at a book, what all went into making a book, or, you know, all these different things around the house, like all of these different things that go into making one particular item. So they were really fascinated by that. My personal favorite was Education Vacation, because it just really talks about, you know, John Gatto and this idea behind being maybe pro homeschool and the benefits of homeschool, and, you know, being able to tailor your education for each individual kid rather than following compulsory education. And so that was my personal favorite, because I do like John Gatto and his books and the things that he has come out and or had come out and written about. So that one was my personal favorite. So overall, we've enjoyed these books as a family. We would give them 2 thumbs up. We didn't find any issue with them, and I would highly suggest that you take a look at them, see if that might be something that you and your kids are interested in. You know, it just definitely spurs additional conversation, questions, discussion in your family, just talking about these concepts that sometimes can be a little tricky, of trying to figure out how you can teach them in your own home. So I would highly suggest that. I will put a link down in the description box for you guys to check it out. As usual, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know. And until next time, guys, have a blessed day.